If you are what you say you are, a superstar, then have no fear. The camera's here and the microphones, and they wanna know. Yeah. Yeah. A fresh, cool young Lou trying to cash his microphone check 212. Wanna believe my own hype, but it's too untrue. The world
Let's go
to my knees. What have you brung you? Did you improve on the design? Did you do something new? Where your name in on the guest list? Who brung you? You, the more famous person you come through, and the sexy lady next to you, you come too. And then the hitman standing outside of heaven waiting for God to come and get me.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining us wherever you would join us. Rate us, review us, leave a message, whatever you do. Talk spicy. You know, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you join me on the YouTube channel, you know what to do. Like, subscribe. If you're joining me on X, you know what to do. Share. Make sure that you are, following me and all those things. Shout out to Football Game Plan. Make sure that you're going over to the Facebook page at Football Game Plan and patronize, and make sure that you're following Football Game Plan and everything that goes on over there. Those are my guys. Well, my guy, and then everybody else that's over there are my guys. Ride or die to the end. Shout out to the Bleacher Brothers. You'll know that this is simulcasting on their YouTube channel as well as their X. And then shout out to me because why not, right? and most importantly, shout out to the Boston Celtics, your 2023-2024 NBA champions. I don't want to say world champions because that's not really legitimate. Although I'm pretty sure they would beat any team in the world. How about this? If you took this Boston Celtics team and just sent the Celtics team to represent Team USA in the Olympics, would they win it? You would have to take Porzingis off, right? Because he's not American. So you'd have to take Porzingis off. Maybe Al Horford. You'd have to take Al Horford off. But outside of those two people, and with all due respect to Porzingis, he's been injured. So it's not like it's a big miss, right? They did a lot of this heavy lifting without him. I think that as we've seen this play out, they probably get it done without him. I was completely and totally wrong on my thoughts that Dallas had too much firepower in the guards. I still do believe those two guys have it just from a talent standpoint. But as we know, in order to win championships, it's more than just talent. It needs to be talent. It needs to be that mental capacity, that ability to lock in and do the things that others don't do or won't do, like play defense, Luka Doncic. And so the better team won, and the better team won because that team figured out how to play defense. I mean, it's really that, it's almost that simple. I hate to reduce it to the lowest denominator, but it really is that simple. That team won because that team played defense, and the other team had one dude who was a sieve and another dude who's never really been that great of a defender, but it is what it is. So shout out to the Celtics. I got the spicy lit up green. I know it might look teal to some of you, but when I look at it, when I turn around and look at it from my angle, it is really green. But then when I look at it through my screen, it almost looks turquoise, right? Maybe it doesn't look like that on your end, and hopefully it looks green on your end. On my end, it's looking a little bit turquoise, but that's okay. Still wanted to show them love, wanted to show them respect. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Jrue Holiday, who for me is my MVP. I know that it's passe to give the MVP to other guys, but here's the funniest part, right? When Golden State won their first title, when they beat LeBron, when he didn't have Kyrie and he didn't have Kevin Love, they beat LeBron and just a bunch of dudes, right? They gave the MVP to Andre Iguodala. They gave the MVP to Andre Iguodala, even though LeBron James had him on a skillet, cooking him up the entire. LeBron James did whatever he wanted. It was just not enough because it was only him. But just in guarding LeBron, got him the MVP. Didn't think he deserved it. Don't understand what went into it. And I love Andre Iguodala as a ball player, but that wasn't one of those ones. You can make the legitimate argument that if you don't have Jrue Holiday there to check, right? To check on Kyrie Irving, to be a big time rebounding guard because Jaylen Brown's not, to do the dirty work, to get those extra buckets. Like, you know what you're going to get from Tatum and Brown from a scoring standpoint overall, but he was the legitimate third scorer this entire finals. And the finals MVP is not an entire playoffs MVP. That's the thing. That's the thinking that I feel gets messed up here. I think Jaylen Brown got the MVP because he was the MVP for the playoffs. But this isn't supposed to be just an MVP award for the playoffs. This is supposed to be an MVP award for the finals, right? So that's kind of where I was on it. And I said, well, it's interesting because while I'm not mad, right? While I'm not mad at Jaylen Brown winning, I still look at what I look at and go, man, I wanted Jrue Holiday to step up, right? I didn't think he stepped up in that Indiana series. I think that those guards are doing whatever they wanted in that Indiana series, and that was one of the reasons why I thought the Celtics might be in trouble, but he really did what he was supposed to do, right? He really understood the assignment, and he went out there and got it done as one of the most effective guys playing that's out there, right? So I ain't mad at that. I ain't mad at that at all. I ain't mad at that at all. I'm looking forward to seeing how they respond. I'm looking forward to seeing what Kyrie does this offseason, right? What he does this offseason, I'm looking forward to seeing how Dallas responds. They seem to be in a great place to be able to make another run at it, right? Remember, they weren't a high seed. I think they were like the 5th seed or something like that. So they have the ability to make another run. But what's really going to be interesting to watch, is exactly what Boston does now that they've bit the apple, right? Like, what is Boston going to do now that once they bite the apple? Like, how are they going to respond now that they are champions? See, this is the part where I look at what LeBron James has done, and I think he still doesn't get as much credit as he deserves, because not only did he win or go to the dance, but he continued to go to the dance. He continued to get back to the chip. He continued to go back again and again. He continued to do the things, necessary in order to like recreate it, like to get back. That's the part of the thing that makes him special that no one ever really talks about. We saw that Denver, they couldn't do it. They couldn't sustain. They couldn't make it continuously happen. And because they weren't able to make it continuously happen, right? Because they weren't able to sustain that level of excellence from this run to the next run, because there's a lot of fatigue involved in that, they didn't get back. So now comes the question. If you remember, it was really, really, really difficult. It was really difficult for the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen Boston Celtics to get back a second time. They got back there and they ran out of steam in the championship. Right? So never forget that when you start talking about how some players or how LeBron is this and LeBron is that, like don't discount the fact. Don't discount the fact that it is really, really difficult not only to just get back, but to get back and win it. It's hard enough just to get back. Denver couldn't do it once, right? But it's a whole different thing to get back and win it. And it's crazy, right? Because it's crazy because the Denver Nuggets, had they won it, would have put themselves in a completely different like stratosphere. Because it's one thing to win it, it's another thing to run off a few, right? So like if you get back and you win it again, then that takes you to a whole nother level. That takes you to a completely different level that nobody can take away from you. Correct? So now here comes the Boston Celtics. You give them credit for making it, right? They made it. Now they've been twice. They won the chip. Now can they do it again? Right? Can they do it again? Isn't that the beauty of the game? Is the moment you win it, we can sit back and go, okay, they did it once. Can they do it again? It doesn't mean that we don't appreciate what they've done. It doesn't mean that we don't give them flowers for what they've done. It doesn't mean that we don't celebrate it. We don't allow them the chance to celebrate it. It's the NBA, right? You have 82 games. So they don't even have to come in and be the most locked in, right? That's not what's necessary in order to be successful. They don't have to come in and be locked in from day one. All they have to do is get to the playoffs, and when they get to the playoffs, be at the level that allows them to go forward and win it all. Right? That's it. That's all they got to do. Is just be at the point where they can just take off. That's it. So it'll be interesting to me. It'll be interesting to me to see like what happens, to see where we go from here with the Boston Celtics. But like all of the talk about whether or not, all the talk about whether or not Tatum is the best or Brown is the best. The truth is that neither one of them is a superstar. Like, y'all just be trying to make people superstars, right? You just try to make people superstars. But neither one of them are superstars. They're both stars. They're both really, really good. And now they're both going to get paid like superstars. And that's fine. Right? So what comes next? Because heavy is the head that wears the crown. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. And I'll be interested in seeing how that crown sits on their head. We had the second game of the WNBA season that featured Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. I've been telling you, or I've been telling anyone that'll listen, that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese is the new Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, with the exception of nobody protected Larry Bird when he came into the league. He got it out the mud. But the proof of the pudding is in the tasting, right? The 2.25 million viewers on CBS that watched Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese get it in, that wasn't just some anomaly. Every time those two young ladies are on the court together, it's must-watch television. Hey, and let's keep it a bean. Caitlin Clark had one of her more efficient games. Hey, anybody else? Has anyone else noticed that the more that Caitlin Clark has started deferring, the better she's become? Ta-da! The more that Caitlin Clark has decided that she is going to allow Aaliyah Boston to be Aaliyah Boston, the more that she's decided to allow some of the other players to get their gun off, the better she plays. When she's shooting 20 plus shots a game, that is not a recipe for success for Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. This is not college. You cannot just dominate all of the shots and expect that everything's going to be hunky-dory. And now all of a sudden, when she's taking less shots, she's scoring more. Why? Because she's more efficient. All of a sudden, she's getting more assists. Why? Because she's being more efficient, because she's getting the ball to the other playmakers. Remember at the beginning of the year when everybody told you how bad Indiana was? At the beginning of the year, anybody with a microphone, anybody who had been covering the WNBA for 5 seconds told you that Caitlin Clark was the best thing that ever happened to the WNBA as a player, and that the Indiana Fever were terrible. Then they started losing games, and they blamed everybody but Caitlin Clark. Except when you kept looking at the numbers, it says Caitlin Clark's turning the ball over too much. Caitlin Clark's not getting anybody involved in the game. Caitlin Clark is inefficient. And now all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, Caitlin Clark is passing the ball more, getting others involved. She's turning the ball over less, and she's being more efficient. Equals the Fever are getting wins. And not to be outdone, Angel Reese, who I think is going to have to, like, during the break, when they all break, Angel Reese needs to get in the gym and she needs to put up shots because she is way too inefficient if she's not by the basket. But you cannot get beyond the fact that she is in there boarding her ass off. She is in there on the boards, playing tough. You know what's really awesome about Angel Reese is that she is an absolutely beautiful woman. She's an absolutely beautiful woman. Take the basketball away, and She could be any one of those women out there that do the dang thing, right? She's an absolutely stunning woman. When she plays, she ain't worried about none of that. She ain't worried about how cute she is. She doesn't play a cute game. She doesn't even try to, she's not even trying to be cute. Like somebody made a stupid remark about her lashes. Oh, she need to take them big lashes off. Why? She's cooking your girls with lashes on. Maybe your girl should put some lashes on. Right? But she's not going out of her way to be glammed up during the game. She's out there balling. She plays a physical brand. Now, within the game, there was a foul. You can clearly see in the video that Angel Reese is trying to block the ball. She misses the ball, and because her arm is going this way and Caitlin Clark is going that way, she hits her in the head. I cannot count on my hands how many times this has happened to me playing basketball. I was going up for a layup. Somebody came and tried to swat me from behind or from the side. They missed the ball, and I got clunked upside the head. I never even had a flagrant one call, but I understand the rule, which is why I think the flagrant one was warranted. Now, why somebody would go back after watching that video and seeing that that Angel Reese's eyes the entire time are on the ball and somehow go, well, she's looking directly at the ball, but she must be trying to hit Caitlin Clark in the head, is beyond me. Why that would be elevated, why it would be elevated to a flagrant 2, I'll never understand. But Angel Reese is outspoken. Angel Reese, hey, watch this. Angel Reese is an outspoken heterosexual female. Angel Reese is an outspoken black heterosexual female in a league that everybody else wants to say is full of lesbians. I don't know why that matters, right? But since it matters, right? Since it matters, she is all of the things that Caitlin Clark is. She's all the things that Caitlin Clark is, except one. She's not white. She's all of the things that Sabrina Ionescu is, except one. She's not white. She has been called a thug. She has been called a bully. She has been said that it has been said by people she should be thrown out of games. That she's a piece of S. Like, why? Because she plays basketball the way everybody else has played basketball for as long as basketball has existed? I don't have to defend Angel Reese. You know why? Because she's not looking for defense. She's just going to take it. You know what? It's cool. It's cool. I'll take it. When she gets hit, there's no think pieces. Even the Angel Reese defenders, when she got hit versus Connecticut, they were a little up in arms, but Angel Reese was like, "Nah, I'm good. That's what happens. That's the game." You know what her defenders went? Okay, cool. When Caitlin Clark got hit, and she got up and said, "No, it was just basketball. It's cool." They were like, "No, it isn't. You just don't understand how much they hate you." It's interesting how that works. And by the way, most of this is being done by people who you can't find a WNBA tweet about before last year. It is being done by people who you can't find a WNBA tweet about before, I don't know, 3 months ago. There have been people that have come on podcasts and on shows and admitted that they have not been following the WNBA, that they just came to the WNBA. Why do you have such strong opinions? Like, why are you so emotional about something you've invested little to no time in? Because you think it's a way to get attention. You think it's a way to get engagement. You think it's a way to get clicks. Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe go out of their way to tell you that that's not how that it's not how TV works. That you can't just talk about something because you want to. That it has to be a thirst for it. There has to be a reason to talk about it. They're essentially admitting to all of you that the only reason they're talking about the WNBA and Caitlin Clark is because it'll get them ratings. They're telling you this. The same way that they tell you that the only reason they talk Dallas Cowboys on football all the time is because it gets ratings. The same way that they tell you that the only reason they talk LeBron James all the time is because it gets ratings. They're telling you the truth. They're allowing you to see it. Right? And so what's going to happen when the Caitlin Clark hoopla dies down? What's going to happen if Caitlin Clark is not special? Right? If she's just another girl. If she's just good. If she's not fantastic, if she's not phenomenal, if she's just good. If she doesn't win a championship, what does that mean for the WNBA? It means that the moment people don't care about Caitlin Clark anymore, Shannon Sharpe, Stephen A. Smith, First Take will cease to talk about the WNBA. There won't be an appetite for it. They'll have to move on and go back to playing the hits. I don't know what they're going to do when LeBron James retires. I'm assuming they'll just talk about LeBron James in retirement, right? Because, I mean, he's still a sports figure, even though he's not playing sports. They're going to have to do something. It's an interesting place to be. It's an interesting place to be in sports. You know what else is interesting? I saw a post that said that GQ dubbed Nika Mule the best dressed rookie in the WNBA, and with all due respect, they don't know what they're talking about. I know it's GQ. They don't know what they're talking about. If it's not Angel Reese, it ain't Nika Mule, and I think she is slaying the outfits. But if it ain't Angel Reese, there's only other one name, right? So, interesting to see, like, kind of what happens with everything, because I think all of this stuff is equally important, right? I think all of this stuff is equally important, and all of it has value. All of it has value. The under 17 USA basketball team was getting some run, right? Was getting some pull as of late. Overtime posted this, and it had a roster. It says Team USA's under 17 class is crazy. Roster includes Bryce James, Keon Anthony, Elijah Arenas, the Boozer twins, Taj Ariza, AJ DeBensta or DeBensa, Caleb Holt, and many more. Now, obviously, people went immediately to the NBA players' names, right? Bryce James, son of LeBron James, Keon Anthony, son of Carmelo Anthony, Elijah Arenas, son of Gilbert Arenas, the Boozer twins, clear, right? Taj Ariza, son of Trevor Ariza. But they're not the only ones that have kids out there, right? We're seeing kids all over the place. I just saw a post that the sons of the bus Jerome Bettis, of Plaxico Burress, and another player, I forget his name right now, but I hope it'll come back to me. But they're all going to Notre Dame. Don't ask me why black people are still sending their people to Notre Dame, but okay, cool, whatever. We'll have that conversation another day. And you know what's crazy about it is I really used to love Notre Dame, like what they stood for, everything, like at least what I thought they stood for, right? And before I was, when I was a little bit more naive about things in this world, but shout out to them. I'm sure they'll have a great experience at Notre Dame, and they probably grew up around a lot of people who would go to Notre Dame. So, that helps. But I thought it was interesting that a lot of people were making a lot about, oh, well, look at all of these kids who grew up in Lamborghinis, driving Lamborghinis that are on Team USA or in the USA crop. And I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the game has changed. I have watched my players on my team go around to exposure camp after exposure camp after exposure camp, weekend after weekend, one day camp here, one day camp there. All of them, they cost $30, $50, $75. They're going there. There's hundreds of kids at these camps. This ain't even like elite level, like colleges. These aren't Alabama and Georgia and Florida. This is, Georgia Southern and Shorter and Jacksonville State. But just in a matter of Edward Waters, just in a matter of a couple of weeks, a few camps, there's a few $100s. Ladies and gentlemen, the game has changed. The reason why you're seeing a lot of these professional basketball players, kids, achieving at the level that they're achieving at, getting the opportunity to achieve at that level, is because they have the resources to put their kids in front of the people that they need to have them in front of in order to achieve at that level. See, if you don't have the resources, and this is what basketball has to be like aware of, it can't become soccer and baseball in America. It can't be what soccer and baseball have become in America, which is super big business at the youth level. And the only way that you can get recruited, the only way that you can get exposure, the only way you can get on radars is if you have enough money to be on an elite team and going to all of the elite camps, the elite combines, the elite tournaments, year in and year out. LeBron James, that ain't nothing but a drop in the bucket for him. Same thing with Carmelo Anthony, Gilbert Arenas, Boozer, Ariza. They got it. The person that wants to give their kid all of the advantages that have money, that make a 6-figure plus income, that's nothing to them. But if you're just a guy who can hoop and you don't come from any money and you don't have anyone willing to invest in you to get you to those places, then you're not going to get recruited. This is basketball, and it's quickly becoming football now. I watched over the last few years as guys who are legitimate Division I talents in basketball don't go D1. They go to junior colleges. They go to prep schools. I'm talking about in basketball. And why? Because they're not leaving the state of Georgia. Because they're not getting out and competing in those tournaments on the teams that matter, on the teams where all of the college coaches are in that room. I used to referee. I told this story before. I used to referee, and I can tell how good the competition is based off of how many coaches are in the room. So when I would walk into a gym and it would be college coaches all in the stands, okay, we're about to see some dudes. When I walk into the gym and it's just me and the teams, okay, this is the C team or the B team or the I need to make money team that I have out there. And the sad part is that most of these kids don't know they're in the C, they're in the B. They just think because they put on the jersey of a well-known organization that they are in the A. My good friend Tom Nelson, head coach, athletic director at Bremer and May, and the number 2 guy at MASH Rivals, they have several teams. They're not all the elite teams. And they let the kids know, hey, if you want to get to this is what you need to do. If you want to get to this team, right? This team that goes to all of the elite Adidas stuff where all the coaches are, you need to do this. If not, hey, we're still going to push you. We're still going to help you, but you're not going to be in front of the same amount of coaches as you will be. And they let them know. Right? But there's not a lot of people out there being that level of honest. And there's not a lot of parents out there that have the several $1,000s it takes every summer, every spring, every winter in order to do what Bryce James' dad can do, Keon Anthony's dad can do, Elijah Arena's daddy, the Boozer twins, Taj Ariza. They don't have it to do what they can do, which is personal trainers, workouts, food regimens, vitamins, or whatever supplements that you know are good and healthy and natural and the best for you. Facilities to always be able to practice any time of day. And the understanding of what it takes to get to that level. Hey, your mama can support you all you want. But if your mama ain't never shot a basketball, if she ain't never played on a basketball team, she has zero understanding of what it takes. Because it's one thing to tell somebody, well, you got to work hard. But if your daddy ain't never played basketball, how does he know what to tell you to work hard on? It's a different game out there. Of course, Bryce James is on this team, even though somebody said he's a backup on his team. He plays on one of the best teams in the world. He plays on one of the best basketball teams in the world. So, of course, he's on this under 17 team, right? Because he plays on one of the best teams in the world, and his dad is named LeBron James. Like, this ain't difficult to figure out. There's no conspiracy. Right? LeBron got it one way. What is the use of LeBron and Ariza and Gilbert Arenas and Carmelo Anthony going through what they went through when they were growing up in, and not the ideal conditions, if they can't use all of the money and all of the resources and all the pool that they have to give their kids the opportunity to do this in ideal conditions? What's the use of it? What's the reasoning? It doesn't make any sense, and you know it don't make any sense. So I'm not mad at them. It's shout out to them. Now y'all got to come bring the gold home, right? Well, first, apparently some of them are going to have to make this team because it looks like a lot of people on this team. I'm assuming that this is like the selected, and then they whittle down the team from here because it looks like about 25, 30 people that's in this picture. I mean, that's what I'm looking at. At least 30 people in this picture. So they're going to whittle that down. So it's not even a guarantee. But you know what they've done? They've opened the door and they've given their kids the opportunity. Now it's going to be on them to bring it home. Nothing's handed to them, right? Nothing's handed to them. They've just streamlined the production. But we're going to have to change our mentality. That's as coaches, that's as players, that's as parents. If we want our kids to be able to get to these highest levels, there's going to have to start being some budgeting done to say, hey, I need to pay for all of these things in order to get my kid in front of, and not at the cow heat camps, not at the bring us your tired, you're poor, you're hungry camps, but get there for elite level workouts, the ones where you've been invited to come, not where they just sent the flyer out, but the ones where you have been told by a coach, hey, we'd like to see you here. Or find your way to get into the camps where they've said that to other people, and now you're just going. And even if you got to pay, you go there, you show out. Because they're going to find you, it's not working, right? Here's why it's not working. It's not because of 7-on-7, but they're going to find you it's not working because all of these schools are working 2, 3, in some cases 4 years ahead with their recruiting. So by the time you jump on the radar as a junior, they probably already have their class of 2025 set. Maybe 1 or 2 spots. Now that we've got free agency in college, it becomes even more difficult. So now you have to take the onus on yourself to get it done, to put yourself in a better position. That's the only way it's going to happen. And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I am pleased. I am going to be joined by Coach Kevin Smith of Perry High School, the 4A state champions in Georgia, football state champions in Georgia. An absolutely fantastic conversation that I had with him. Don't be surprised if you want to pack your stuff up and move to Perry, Georgia. Once you hear him talk, I was inspired. I gleaned a lot from it. It was awesome. And I look forward to talking to more elite level head coaches in the future. But this was the first. Well, actually, it was the second, because I also talked to Maurice Freeman, who gave us some jewels as well. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. This is Talk Spicy. Keep it a buck.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. As always, I am blessed to be joined by the best, head coach Kevin Smith, head football coach at Perry High School, the 2023-2024 4A state champions. Is that right, Coach Smith?
Yes, sir.
4A, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sometimes they be putting all those A's out there. I get a little bit blurry on which one is mine and which one is someone else's. Congratulations and thank you for joining me.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Coach, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How many years have you been in Perry now?
All right, so I'm going into my 8th season here at Perry High School. I'm going into my 31st season overall.
Absolutely. And is it one of those things where, you know, in 31 seasons, are you like, I can see the finish line off in the distance, or does a situation where you win a state championship erase any thought process of the finish, and now it kind of re-energizes you? Which way do you kind of see it going for you?
You know, about 10 years ago, I was I thought I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, we all get a little burnt out, and then you got to step back and you got to realize what your purpose is. And then when you understand what your purpose is, then it's not burnout anymore. And, you know, here I am at 30 years, and, you know, I don't know what I'd do if I wasn't coaching. And I know our young people, you know, they need athletics. They need good, strong leaders. And, you know, I just don't think the good man upstairs is ready for me to be done yet. So I still look forward to coming to work every day. You know, I don't know. I can see myself going another 10 years.
Hey, I don't blame you at all. Sometimes I wonder about what life looks like for me if I just completely gave up coaching. But like you said, it's one of those things where when it's a calling and you know that that's what you should be doing with your life, it makes it hard to give it up, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I want to go back to last year. And probably not the greatest moment, but in hindsight, probably something that helped propel you guys to where you were. You were down, 21. You were down 21-14 going into the fourth quarter with Houston County. First game of the year. Obviously, we know how electric that fourth quarter was. It was like touchdown after touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. It was back and forth. It was what you would expect, right? From when those two teams get together. And you guys came out on the negative end of that. You came out on the L side. When you were sitting there with your guys in that locker room after that game, did you think that you could be where you were at the end of the season?
Well, I thought we could. We try to look at things. We can't see the end of the season. The only thing we can see is the next practice, the next game, the next opponent. And, we lost to a really good Houston County team, and we made some mistakes in that game that if we don't make, we probably win the game. We made one more mistake than they did. And, we don't dwell on our losses. We learn from them. So we went back through that game, and that was our first game of the season. That was our second game of the season. And a lot of first games, there's a lot of mistakes out there that you clear up for that second game. And, we were able to look from that, go back and study that game film, learn from our mistakes. And, and then we moved on, and, we didn't, blame each other. Coaches didn't blame players. Players didn't blame coaches. We went back to work, and, hey, we're going to get it right this week. And that's sort of the approach that we try to take, is controlling the things that you can control. And the only thing that we can control is the next play, or the next practice. And so we sort of took that approach. We learned a lot from that game, and we moved on. And, it ain't if adversity is going to hit, it's when it's going to hit, and it's how you respond to it is going to determine what kind of football team you are, and coming into that game, I don't know if you remember, we were down 21-0 at halftime. And then we come out in the second half, man, and took the lead. And, so that's sort of, where we are in sort of our culture process, our standards that we try to live up to, and, control the things that we can control, learn from our past, and, so we can move on and get better.
Absolutely. I think about that because when you lose a game at the beginning of the year, one of two things happen, right? You either go, all right, we know exactly what it is that we need to clean up in order to be better, or you go, it's going to be a rough one this year, fellas, right? Like you can kind of take the temperature, and the mission still stays the same. You still got to go practice by practice, game by game, but we all understand what we're dealing with sometime, because this isn't college and this isn't the NFL. We don't get to pick the groceries. We get what we got, right? And so you go on a run, 54-21 over Jones County the next week. Veterans, Peach, 41-0 to Howard, 55-14 to Westside, 41-7 versus Griffin. And then you roll up on Spalding, and you guys take a L at Spalding. Now, this isn't like the beginning of the year. This is later in the season. How were you? Was it one of those? Because I've had times where we've been rolling, right, and living high on the hog, and then there's that game that hits you, and it's almost like a reality check. Hey, you can still be beat. Was that one of those things for you guys, or was it just like, hey, they just had our number today? Yeah,
I think it was, knocked us back down to size a little bit. We had to leave with 1 minute and 50-something seconds left, and 9 times out of 10 we close it out. We don't lose many games with under 2 minutes left, and they got to drive the field. And and we had a breakdown in coverage, and they made a play, and they come back and beat us. And I knew after that game, the way our kids acted, that, man, we're going to be okay. We're going to learn from this game. See, you gotta learn how to win the right way, and you got to learn how to lose the right way. And losing a region championship game like that, you could have had a lot of guys, throwing helmets, blaming each other. No, we went to the 50-yard line. We went out there, shook hands. We took our second place trophy. We got back to the locker room, and we talked about some things that we did well, and then we talked about some things that we didn't do so well. And we didn't make excuses, and we learned a lot from that. Going building up, I could hear the guys the previous 2 or 3 weeks. We just coasting, and bam. Spalding, they had a good football team, and they come back and beat us, and after being up, and so I thought, I hate losing more than I like winning, and but if there's any truth to sometimes a loss is good, you try to turn it into a good. Well, what did you learn from it? Well, we learned that we could be beat, and we learned that we better play every play like it's our last play. And I think the record shows after that, if you look at the next week and through the state playoff run, we didn't let that happen again. So I think that was we learned a lot from that game, and we lost to a really good football team as well.
It's interesting because in every championship run, they say there's that one that's the ugly one, like the really ugly one. That's that 7-3 win over Bainbridge. Yeah. What was that game like? Why was it? Because you guys have been flying high, as far as offensively, getting turnovers, defensively. You guys have been pushing the envelope all year, and then you get to that Bainbridge game, and the offense isn't clicking the way it would normally. You're not finding the end zone. What was that game like from the inside, and how did you guys continue to galvanize and just get a win by any means necessary?
Yeah, I think it goes back to our belief in playing the next play, controlling the things that you can control. We knew that Bainbridge was a really good football team. They were picked to win the 4A state championship, and they very easily could have beat us and went on to win it. They're a really good football team. And then you got to go to Bainbridge, and there's no easy way to get to Bainbridge. So we go down there, and I tell the guys, hey, we're gonna play the next play. It's gonna be like a heavyweight fight. They're gonna throw a punch, we're gonna throw a punch, and it's gonna be who's punching at the end. And we preached to our guys all year. When the offense, when they struggle, what can they do? They can punt. When the defense, when they struggle, you're getting a kickoff return team out ready to go. And so, our offense struggled. So what do we punted more times in that game, and we punted all year. We punted like 7-8 times in that game. And that game turned into a field position game. We kept them on a long field all night. They'd have long drives, and then they'd sputter, and then we'd go back down, and then we were pretty good on defense. They left some plays out there. We left some plays out there, and we made one more play than they did. And, that's what you want. That's what you want in a playoff game. 2 really good teams going tit for tat. Coach Littleton, before the game, I said, good luck, Coach. I said, sorry we had to meet this early. I said, there's 2 really good football teams. One of us is going to be home next week. And, he said, yeah, Coach, I told my guys the same thing. It's going to be tooth and nail. And it was. And, our guys just showed enough grit. They never panicked. We try not to focus on the end of the game. We try not to focus on what the score is. We try to focus on winning the next play. We try not to get too high on a big play. We try not to get too low when things don't go our way. We try to stay even keel. And let's play the next play. Let's play the game with emotion. Let's get excited. Let's get people right when we need to, but know what the vision is. Our vision is to win the next play. And our guys bought into that. And I think, you'll probably talk a little bit more here in a minute in the playoffs, but it helped us get to the state championship game.
Yeah, and really, once you guys got past Bainbridge, it was 3 to the chip, 38-27 victory over Stockbridge in the championship game. I just want to know in the final minutes of the game, what was going through your mind? And as you surveyed the scene, like, what do you remember? What stands out vividly in your memory as you knew that the job had been done? You stamped yourself as state champions, and these young men will now be cemented forever. And, you know, I think it's a cool thing. I've never had an opportunity to win a state championship in football. And so, like, I always just wonder what the scene looks like to the people on the inside.
Yeah. You know, when it got to the end of the game, and I felt like we had the game in control, and there was a timeout, and the official comes over and tells me we got so many timeouts left, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at the official and I said, is there any way I can screw this up? I make back, because he's coach. Normally I would say no. He said, but I ain't never seen anybody fumble a kickoff return and then pick it up and run it in for a touchdown. You know, the kickoff earlier in the game where, you know, we returned it, had a good return. That ball was bouncing around. Stockbridge could have jumped on it. They could have went down. They had the momentum, but that ball bounced up to us. We go down to score, you know, and you got to have a little bit of luck too. And he said, normally that's what I think. So I'm still serving now. We're still playing the next day, still playing the next play. And, you know, just to tell you a little bit about assistant coaches that you talked about a while ago, you know, Stockbridge, they scored a touchdown late. And our defensive coordinator, Coach Charles Anthony, who retired after 40 plus seasons, those guys are coming off the field. I mean, it's less than 2 minutes or so, and he's ripping their tails up one side down the other side. You know, here's a guy fishing to retire. Way he was coaching, I said, man, I might get another year after this out of this guy. You know, and he's ripping them, but that's just an expectation. You know, trying to finish the deal that we talked about a little bit earlier. We didn't finish the deal in a couple of the losses that we had, so we had to finish the deal. But then once I knew that it was over, I started, and I'm big on sportsmanship. You know, win, lose, or draw. We're gonna line up at that 50-yard line. We're gonna walk across the field, and we're gonna shake hands, and we're gonna respect our opponent. And we're not going to throw helmets and go make dog piles and all of that kind of stuff. The first thing we're going to do is go shake hands. And so I watched our guys, and guess what they did? They went to that 50-yard line. You know, a lot of teams would have been storming the field and all that. But that just goes with our culture, you know. And so we walk across that field, and we shake hands, and, you know, and then we get up there, and it's like you're pinching yourself. You're like, man, did we really just do this? You know, it's like you said, Coach, I've been doing it 31 years. I've been fortunate to been an assistant coach and win a couple of state championships. But there's guys that coach, like Coach Anthony, my defensive coordinator. He's got 45 plus years coaching. He coached in the game a couple of times, but that's the first time he had ever won it. You know, there's a lot of guys that coach all their life that don't ever get to coach in that game, and they don't get to experience the win in that game. And, you know, and you know, we were blessed, and, you know, I was so proud of the way our kids acted after the game, showing the other team respect and celebrating the right way. And, you know, be gracious winners. Don't be arrogant winners. Be gracious winners. You know, and that's a lot to do with what you see so much on TV every time you turn a college sport game on now, especially with the baseball going on now. It seems like every team's wanting to fight and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, but all that goes back to the unsportsmanlike stuff. The coaches and the players going back and forth. You know, go out there and play the next play. Go out there and control what you can control. Help your team win. Don't worry about we don't win that game. We want to win on the scoreboard. And so that was one of the things that I was surveying as a head coach. That's the first time I won a state championship as a head coach, but I'd been there before with as an assistant coach and won it. And I was hoping that all the character, all the culture stuff that we do, that it was going to really show in front of the whole world, because it was on TV and everything. And I had a lot of people compliment us, Coach, man, our guys, after the play, they'd help the other team up. You didn't see a lot of jaw jacking. You didn't see no late hits. You didn't see no swing, you know, because we try to play the game the right way. And that was what I was most proud of. And, you know, we try to do things right here. We're not a win at all cost program. We're gonna do things the right way. And I think that we were blessed that night. Why did that ball pop up and let's run it in? You know, it could have, Stockbridge could have got that ball, you know, and, you know, that could have been a whole different ball game had Stockbridge went down and got 2 scores on us right before half, you know, and then we go down and we're back in the lead. So, you know, that was very good. And it exhibited our culture that we built all season and what we've been building for 7 years here. You know, the positive culture of the team first attitude. You know, it's not about me. It's not about Coach Smith. It's not about Dakari Anderson. It's not about Coulter again. It's about Perry High School. What can I do to help Perry High School win? And that's what I wanted to see, and that's what I saw. And you know, I know I got off on a little tangent there, Coach, but it was it's hard to explain. I mean, it's just the greatest feeling. I still want to pinch myself sometimes and see if we actually did it. You know, make sure I ain't dreaming.
No, Coach, I understand completely, and I will say first off, I want to give a salute and a job well done to Coach Anthony, as he gets ready to embark on whatever his next journey is in life. I always say, you know, when you're ready to hang the whistle up, it's something. You know, it's something inside of you. And I've seen coaches who hang the whistle up and they struggle to figure out what their purpose is. You know, and so my prayers go to him that he has a purpose and he's ready for whatever the next you know, whatever the next thing is for him, or if he's just ready to sit down, you know, ready to sit down and stop letting the blood pressure get high.
Yeah. You know, I'll say this about Coach Anthony, and Coach Anthony's 67 years old. And I hope and pray that when I get 67 years old, if I'm still doing this, that I had the energy and the passion that he still had when he went out. And, you know, he told me it was very hard for him to retire. He was choked up and, you know, but it's time for him to go spend some time with his grandkids and his kids. And, you know, he said, Coach, I'm walking out a winner.
Hey, you can't beat that. And that's a great place to start. As I said, man, I wanted to talk. We're talking about the head coach's guide to being a great assistant coach, right? And from that, Coach Anthony being 60 plus years old, we've seen out here in the world, it's like that everything is skewed younger. Right? You think you got to get the young guy. Everybody's looking for the young guy. Looking for the young guy. I talked to Maurice Freeman, who who just retired, and is now in Alabama. You know, double dipping, as I like to say. You know, and salute to him. But he talked about, you know, the energy and wanting to find a couple young guys for energy. And now you just talked about, you know, a 60-plus-year-old guy with all the energy in the world. Energy is obviously something you got to have as a coach, but if you had to pinpoint the one, he absolutely has to have this quality in order to be a really good assistant coach, what would that be for you?
It's got to be trustworthy. It's got to be loyal, you know, and Perry High School didn't win the state championship because of Coach Smith. You know, I had great assistant coaches, and I've got, you know, like Coach Anthony, now that he's retired, I'm the oldest guy on the staff. You know, now all my other coaches, they real young, and they were able to learn up under that. And, but you're only as good as your assistant coaches. And I'm not a micromanager. You know, I hire a coach to do a job, you know, I expect them to do the job. I'm going to give them every resource that they need. I'm going to give them all the support that they need. On Friday nights, you know, I don't call a lot of plays on either side of the ball. I make a lot of decisions during the game, but you know, if it's a bad play, I called it. You know, if it's a bad play on offense, I called it. If it's a bad place on defense, I called it. You know, but the secret to that is, you know, I was a position coach and a defensive coordinator for a few years, but I was a position coach for a long time under legendary coach Conrad Nix at Northside High School. And when I first took this job, people asked me, said, well, Coach, why did it take you so long to be a head coach? I said, well, I trained 24 years for this job. I just didn't, now young coaches, they think they got to be head coach yesterday. They don't understand that they need to come in and pay some dues and earn their way up. And, but when I was a position coach, I wanted my position players to play as hard as they could for me. And I showed them I believed in them. I showed I trust them. I showed I loved them. I gave them hard love, and they played really hard for me. So when I got to be a head coach, I said, I want my assistant coaches I want them to work as hard. I want them to coach as hard as they can for me. Take that same approach into the coach's office. And every time I turn around, there's coaches up here working. And if you break it down by the hour, how much we get paid, it's pennies.
Yes, sir.
But that ain't what it's all about. It's about these young people. It's about building young men. And you build enough young men, you're gonna win football games. But at the end of the day, football's gonna come to an end. And we don't preach to our kids that they're gonna get a college scholarship. If they're good enough, they're gonna get one. We've had several guys to sign. But football's what are you gonna do then? And so to get back into the assistant coaches, the same thing. Hey, we got to build young men, and we give them all the resources, we give them all the support. We don't blame each other. We had to win in the coach's office too. We had to get everybody on the same page, and a couple of our coffee bean standard is servant leadership. What can I do to help you, coach? What can I do to help you, coach? Because the more I put into you, okay, the better our team's going to be. The more our players play for each other, the better our team's going to be. If I'm going out there and playing for me and all I'm worried about is my stats, we're not going to be very good. Same way with coaches. I had defense that didn't give any points up. I had offense that scored all these points. Who cares? Long as we got one more point than the other team's got at the end of the game, that's all that matters. So how can our coaches serve each other? And we got a tight-knit coaching family. And, we had some openings. And, if I can't find the right fit, we just turn our hat around and then we'll just pick that up, because I'm very protective about who's going to come into our coach's office. They got to be trustworthy. They got to be hard workers. They got to be, they got to have a lot of energy. They got to know that, hey, it's about these kids. It ain't about me. It's about how can I help these kids grow. And, a lot of people say that, but then it goes back to our culture, Coach. You got to control the things that you can control, what you say, what you feel, what you think, and most importantly, what you do. Okay. So I say all of this, but I walk that walk. And if I mess up, my coaches know I'm going to come back to them. My players know I'm going to come back to them and pay. I was wrong, or sometimes they come to me, Coach, you were right, but that's the do part. And you got a lot of teams out there, a lot of coaches, they do all the culture stuff. And then once the season, they ain't got time for it no more, and every Wednesday going into the state championship game on Wednesdays, we're going to win in the locker room. We're going to put football aside and we're going to win in the locker room. Win, lose, or draw, the state championship the whole semester. That they know, our kids know when they come down here on Wednesdays, we're going to win in the locker room. We're going to have character day. And our coaches the same way, and they help us with that. And I just think that, if you're going to have true culture, the head guy's got to walk the walk. And, my coaches know I do anything for them. And just like my players know, there's a lot of care in there. And here's one word that we've lost in today's time, Coach Clemens, is empathy. It's, hey, let's fire the guy and get the next guy. Let's fire the guy and get the next guy. Oh, wait a minute now. You was a young coach. I was a young coach now. Coach Nix, when I was a young coach, he didn't want to fire me. He called me in and said, Kevin, we got to do it this way, man. You got to get this right. Look, if you back me in this corner now, you're going to make me Yes, sir. Thanks, Coach. I try to meet that standard now. So, because Coach Nix has been a young coach. So, you got to emphasize, you got to put yourself in their shoes. Like Coach Anthony's been our coordinator since I got down here. Now Coach Spurley's taken over. So I put myself. I was in Coach Spurley's shoes at one time. First time I had a defensive coordinator job at a state championship winning school. He's gonna be feeling a lot of it. But I'm gonna be able to help him. I'll empathize. It ain't. Well, let's fire him. Hey, man, they can't do nothing, or we can't score any points. Whatever it is, let's empathize. Put yourself. How can we help that coach? How can we help that player? We all were players too. Players struggle. Yeah, man, I went through that when I was in high school too. Not just sometimes people just want to throw kids away because they do something stupid. Well, if we don't yank them back in line, if we don't straighten them back up, then who's going to straighten them up? If we just kick them out to the curb, who's going to, they're going to be in prison, But it's the same way with the coaches, that word empathy that's left our society still works down here in Perry, Georgia.
Absolutely. I think one of the things you said, and it's great, because we constantly forget that we were at some point at that level, right? Mm-hmm. We were all players, or at least most of us were players. We've all been the young coach who thinks he's ready to tackle the world in 1 year of coaching. We've all been the vet who thinks he's got everything figured out, right? Yeah. Like we've all been in those different areas. And you talked about empathy, and I wanna get you out of here on this, but the one thing that I've made the analogy of in coaching is that the coaching staff has to treat their relationship with the program like a marriage.
That's exactly
we're married. Like the kids are gonna grow up and leave. So the things that we do to each other when we think it's for the kid, we really have to understand that our relationship has to be strong in order for the kids to thrive. If we've seen it a million times. How many times have we tried to figure out what was going on with a kid, and then we figure out, okay, there's something at home with mom and dad, or mom and dad aren't in the house, and now that kid is trying to figure the thing out because it's there's so much disruption, there's so much unrest at that level. And so one of the things that I've seen happening in coaching staffs is a them versus us mentality. How do you continue to cultivate the marriage on a year in, year out basis when you understand that people have bigger ambitions and goals, and how do you keep that them versus us out of your staff?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I've been on staffs where there are a lot of egos and everybody want to take the credit for it, and then I've been on staffs where we didn't care who got the credit for it. We married each other, like you said, and we kept this thing going. And I think egos gets in the way of a lot of things, coaches, well, I know more than you do. And, now in nowadays society, if me and you disagree on something, we're supposed to hate each other. It's okay for me and you to disagree on something. We still respect each other. But how many times has that divided the coaches out over one play or maybe one call? Well, I think it should be this way. I think instead of, I respect that, and then let's work through it. Well, man, now that causes division. All right. So what, you don't think the kids see that? The kids can see if the coaches ain't on the same page. They can tell. And, this is a relationship-driven profession. It's a relationship-driven program here. Our kids, they know where the line is, but you got to know they'll do anything you want them to do if they know how much you care about them. And I don't care what you know. They don't care what you've done, but you're going to have to show them. And same thing with coaches. And, it's sort of like that energy vampire, the staff that we have now, the last 2 or 3 years, we ain't had any of those. When we first started over, we had some guys that, that didn't, man, I don't know if I can do it Coach Smith's way because I came in new from elsewhere, and so it wasn't nothing bad between those coaches. They just decided they want to do something else or move to a different school. But you got to weed out if they ain't getting on board with you, then you're spinning wheels, and You got to be able to be a family. We're a family atmosphere. My wife takes care of all the coaches' wives on game night, or if they need something, we do stuff together. I take care of the coaches. If we go to a clinic or whatever, I take care of them. And they know if they need something, they know all they got to do is come in my door and ask for it. And I think, but it's like you said, you got to be married to it. And look, just because you married to somebody don't mean you always see eye to eye, does it? So this is the analogy I use for that. Well, you got a brother and sister, right? When y'all don't ever fight, do you? Oh yeah, coach, we fight. Yeah, I bet y'all about ready to kill each other. But if somebody come in here right now messing with your sister, what you gonna do? Oh no, they ain't gonna mess. I said, exactly. It's a family. We're gonna have disagreements, but we're gonna be transparent. We're gonna communicate. We're gonna get up and we're gonna talk it out. If we have a problem here at Perry High School, a coach or a player and a coach, or two players or two coaches, we're gonna get up in front of the team and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna get the elephant out of the room. And you wouldn't believe how much that's helping. A lot of times it's just where there's a void in communication, that's where the negativity gets in. And hey, sometimes you just got to get it out there. No, because we didn't see it that way or whatever. But I think communication is key. And I think what you said, being married and having each other's back, and just like when you win a state championship, those guys on that field, they got to know that they got each other's back. Win, lose, or draw. They know that, hey, we got to go. We if we start pointing fingers and fighting, hell, we done beat ourselves. So there's a lot of merit to that, Coach. And man, you hit that nail on the head there. And it's got to be in the coach's office, and it's got to be in that locker room. And if you don't, we got good culture here, and we can sort of get away from it. Now we're gonna do more culture stuff, because as long as we win in that locker room right there, we're going to win football games. Now, there's no guarantees we're going to win another state championship. We're going to win a lot of football games, but if you don't do that, you don't win in the locker room, and you don't do things right, you're never going to have a chance to win it all.
I'd be remiss if I let you go and didn't talk a little bit about your number one assistant. No great head coach that's married ever gets it done without a great head coach's wife.
Man.
Can you just speak to how powerful that relationship is, and how much it imbues you to be the man that you need to be to lead other men when you've got that strong woman to come home to on a night in, night out basis?
Man, I tell you what, you hit the nail on the head. And without my wife, I might not even eat during the school day. And sometimes I get so busy, she'll just drop by and have me some food, and late hours, and but my wife, we on the same page. We're about these kids. We're about our kids. We got a family too, but we're about these kids, and we're servant leaders. We want to help people. I don't need a pat on the back. I don't want to, you're doing all this. No, we do this because we want to do it. We don't do this for show. And my wife, man, I can't tell you, and she takes care of our kids when I can't be there. And I tell you what, Coach, I've learned as long as I've been in this profession too. And this goes back to Coach Sweeney at the University of Clemson and Coach Bowden at Florida State. And, he'll go in there and say, hey, turn everything out, guys, go home and be with your family, because this is going to be here when we get back, and I think that's very important. I got coaches that's got young kids, and there might be one day, Coach, I need to run and see my son play a soccer game or something. Well, you know what we got to do. We better be ready the next day. Now, we can't do this every day. Mm-hmm. Now, but I had one coach, my offensive coordinator last year, his daughter graduated from another school in the county. And he said, Coach, she wants me to be recognized with her for the game. I said, okay, what's stopping you? We play the same night. I said, well, we can handle it till you get here. So he goes and he walks his daughter out, and then he comes to our game, and we won. But what if we wouldn't won? That wouldn't have been the reason why not. But we're still showing that we love and support our family, and my wife, and, just being that strong person. And it takes a special lady to be a coach's wife. And I'm very thankful and very, very thankful that my wife is very strong and keeps me in line.
Absolutely, Coach. Once again, thank you for joining me. Coach Kevin Smith, head football coach of the reigning state champion Perry High School. Coach, I appreciate it. Good luck this year. I know you've turned the page. I know a lot of people, it's the cliche thing, turn the page. But I hear a lot of coaches say, hey, I wish I had just taken it in a little bit more.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Definitely make sure that you smell those flowers while they're still fresh.
Yes, sir. Hey, Coach Clemens, I really appreciate you doing this, putting this kind of message out there for people to hear. There's so much negative stuff out there, and we need more of this kind of stuff. And there's so much division in the world today. And this podcast, I know just from our conversations today, has been. I've been blessed. I know I've talked a lot, but you've said a lot of things to me that, man, I really appreciate what you do. And thank you for having me on this podcast.
Hey, Coach, I appreciate it. We'll definitely fellowship again.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Spicy. Once again, blessed to have been joined by such a great ambassador for the game, such a great head coach. Perry High School, you got a real one. You got a real one. And I was happy to be able to talk to him about what makes a great assistant football coach, and I hope to continue to do that. So if you guys have contacts with any of those championship winning head coaches out there, I want to start there and start talking. I'd love to talk to all of the state championship head coaches in the state of Georgia from 2023. And then just kind of continue on from there all across the country. I think it's a fantastic conversation that does not get had enough, but there's definite reason to have the conversation, and that's about like what really makes a great assistant coach and what we do in order to continue to pour into these young men out here in the game where there's the most people, the most bodies, the most eyeballs. So I really do, as I said before, I really do appreciate Coach Smith, head football coach from Perry High School. I wanted to leave you all with this today. The Pete Prisco, who is at CBS Sports, and I want to first give a shout out to Pete Prisco because I'm about to criticize, but I want to give a shout to Pete Prisco because you have to have the guts to put a list out and stand on it, right? When you know that no one's ever going to fully agree with you, right? And so I want to shout Pete Prisco out. I want people to go to CBSSports.com and read his list of the top 100 NFL players. Now, I'm not here to discuss the entire list because that's not where my focus is. Yesterday, I talked about the way in which black quarterbacks and white quarterbacks were perceived, right? Where they had to go. And there was a thing that's always been said that you have to be twice as good for twice as long in order to get the same level of treatment, which is why Patrick Mahomes is number one on probably everybody's list. He's number one on Pete Prisco's list, right? And so, and I want to bring the list up because I don't want to do this without, having this right here, so that you can, if you're watching with me, so that you can watch along with me and see what I'm looking at and understand my frustration with this and know that it's not from any hate, because I don't hate Pete Prisco. And I don't think he does an awful job at it. I mean, I don't think he's awful at his job. I don't understand why we can't acknowledge things when it's clear that this is off, right? So watch this. And you're going to see exactly what I mean in a minute. So his rankings of his top 10 has Patrick Mahomes at number 1, Myles Garrett, Trent Williams, Tyreek Hill, TJ Watt. I'm not going to argue it. But at number 6 is Josh Allen, right? And I'm going to enlarge this so that hopefully everybody that's watching on YouTube or on X or on Facebook, so that you can see it, right? I want you to see what it reads as, right? I'm going to make sure that it is as big as it can possibly be so that you can see what he says. He says, Josh Allen, number 6, he led the NFL in total yards and touchdowns, 44, when combining his passing and rushing touchdowns. Yet the perception was he didn't play well. Yes, he turns the ball over too much, but he was a legitimate MVP candidate last year and will be again this year. Last season, he was number 2. All right, so just so you see my face, keep that in mind, right? Keep that thought process in mind when you see where I'm going here. So now Josh Allen's at number 6. Notice what he said. We go Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey. I don't even want to get into how Christian McCaffrey is all the way down at number 8 on this list after the season he just had. But okay, cool. Micah Parsons is there. Nick Bosa. Don't know how he's number 10 on this list, but cool, right? Cool. Nick Bosa's 10. Don't know how, but okay, whatever. Max Crosby's 11. Sauce Gardner's 12. Jamar Chase is 13. Play the hits. Why don't you, Pete Prisco? Chris Jones is 14. We get to 15 before we get to another quarterback, and that quarterback is Joe Burrow. Now, with Joe Burrow, he says he was limited to 10 games in 2023 because of a calf strain, followed by a season-ending wrist injury. The latter basically ending the Bengals' playoff chances. When on the field, he's a star, but he has to stay healthy. That's the only thing holding him back. Now, he said that about Burrow at 15. I want y'all to look at who's number 16. Who's the fourth quarterback on here. Now, it's not just that I have a problem with the fact that Lamar Jackson is the fourth quarterback on it. I have a huge problem with it. But it's what he says. He won his second MVP last season. But the next step is getting his team to the Super Bowl. He has improved greatly as a passer, which should continue this season in year 2 under OC Todd Monken. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know, and I say this with all the love in my heart, Lamar Jackson has not done anything different. He's just been given an opportunity to be more of a passer. But beyond that, how can you definitively say that he's a better passer this year than he was in his first MVP season? Like, how can you definitively say that he's a better quarterback this year, right? Because he threw for 500 more yards than he did in his first MVP season? Hey, by the way, in his first MVP season, he had 36 passing touchdowns. This year, he had 24. So how can you say that he is a better passer? Now, why are you even talking about him being a better passer? Here's what I want to focus on. How is Josh Allen 6th? When your critique for him is, well, he led the league in yards and touchdowns when you combine the rushing and the passing together, although he turns the ball over too much. So now we don't care about turnovers? Now we're willing to overlook turnovers in Josh Allen's case, but we're not willing to overlook turnovers anywhere else. He gave as a reason for him to be number 6 that he was an MVP candidate and that he will be an MVP candidate again this year, even though he lost one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He says that, and my brain just goes, but how? How can you say that about him, then put Lamar Jackson all the way down at number 16? How can you tell me that the number 6 guy who's a quarterback, one of the reasons is that he was an MVP candidate, and yet you put the MVP, the actual MVP, who's on his second MVP, you put him at 16 after disrespectingly putting him at 35 last year and using the excuse from last year about injury. Yet, just one above him, the guy that you had at number 3 last year, you have at 15 because he was limited by injuries. How are we not seeing the double standards that exist. How are we not willing to recognize the double standards that exist? So just being nominated, just being an MVP candidate gets Josh Allen put to the top of the list, close to the best quarterback in the game by far, bar none. And winning your second almost unanimous MVP in 5 years gets you 15th, 16th, excuse me. Somebody out there, please, I keep telling y'all, somebody tell me what I'm missing. Somebody please tell me or help me understand. Somebody help me understand how any of this is like normal, how any of this is real, how any of this is equal, is equitable, is a part of the game where we go. It's a part of the game where we go, oh no, they're being measured under the same metrics. They're being measured under the same metrics. Over his rise, right? Over Josh Allen's rise in the NFL, it coincided getting one of the best wide receivers in the game. Lamar Jackson didn't have one of the best wide receivers in the game when he won a unanimous MVP. When he won a unanimous MVP, he followed that season up. With a season that looked eerily similar to the MVP season. Did you know, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that Lamar Jackson has never rushed for less than 700 yards in a season where he began the season as a starter? In 2021 and 2022, right? Those were the 2 years where he was injured, right? And only played in 12 games. In each one of those years, he rushed for 760 yards in 12 games. If you had a back on your team that rushed for 760 yards in 12 games, you give him a contract extension. If he had been healthy those 2 years, which, by the way, he was injured, not while running, but while being in the pocket. If he had played the 15 games that he had played the previous 2 seasons, just 15, he would have broke 1,000 yards. Why? Why you say, how do I know he would have broke 1,000 yards? Look at his average per rush. The 5.5 yards a carry that he went for this year was his worst. It was one of his worst, if not his worst. So he would have ran for 1,000 yards. That would have given Lamar Jackson 4 straight seasons of 1,000 yards rushing as a quarterback. This is all the while still operating in the capacity as a quarterback. Arguably his worst season, right? Arguably his 2 worst seasons in 21 and 22 were the 2 seasons that if he stayed healthy, he would have put up similar numbers to his MVP season. In his MVP season, he only played in 15 games. He didn't even play in the 16th game. Which one of these guys out here of his counterparts do you see them taking him out the game when they're up and they have 5 touchdowns in the first half and they just run the ball out in the second half Only Lamar. Everybody else, oh no. Give them a chance to break records. You want to know why it's not Lamar? Because he doesn't care about any of that stuff. All he cares about is getting the dub. He has been the consummate team player. And now, when you put a top 100 together, you are constantly putting the stat compilers ahead of him. I got a ton of issues with this list, right? I got a ton of issues with this list. But I can't get by what I talked about yesterday and what I will continue to harp on, which is why are these quarterbacks judged differently? Joe Burrow has every weapon in the world that you could possibly want. He has a high-quality running back and 3 high-quality wide receivers. He had 2 to 3 decent tight ends, guys who can catch. They talked about his offensive line not being that great, but there's a lot of guys rolling around with offensive lines that aren't that great because you can't invest in everything. And yet Joe Burrow is 1 ahead of him, and he barely even played last year. You've got a guy in Josh Allen at 6. But I would contend if Josh Allen was the 2-time MVP, you'd have him above Patrick Mahomes. If Josh Allen is number 6 and he's never won an MVP, right? If he's number 6 and he's never won an MVP and he's never been to a Super Bowl and he's only been to one, I think, has he even been to an AFC championship? I don't know. Probably not. If you tried to put him, if you gave him 2 MVPs, people would be out there trying to tell us that he is better than Patrick Mahomes. And somehow, when I talk about the difference in how black quarterbacks are perceived and how their white counterparts are perceived, people act as if I'm talking crazy. Right? You can't, they've got no other choice with Patrick Mahomes. See, that's the thing you have to understand. The only reason Patrick Mahomes gets the pass from being judged differently is because he's done so much in such a short time. They have no other choice but to recognize his greatness. But they keep inching people close to Patrick Mahomes. They keep inching them closer. And every time they inch them closer, I go, what have they done to get close? The only person who's done anything to get close is Lamar Jackson. And yet he's 16th. Mind you, if we're taking stock in careers, hey, who's done more in their career? Who's done more? Joe Burrow or Jalen Hurts? Honest question. Who's done more in their career? Joe Burrow or Jalen Hurts? Right? Because I haven't even looked, and I don't even know if Jalen Hurts is on this top 100. I'm going to look right now, right? But if he is on this top 100, if he is on there, I'd love to know why turnovers are an issue for him, right? Justin Herbert is 41, but we haven't seen Jalen Hurts yet. Justin Herbert is 41, but Dak Prescott is 49. All the criticism he gets, he led the league in touchdown passes last season. The knock on him is his postseason play, which is valid, but he's still a good quarterback. One of the Cowboys need to sign to an extension. Hey, Pete Prisco, if Dak Prescott's 49, then how could you possibly have Justin Herbert at 41? All he has is numbers. All he has is numbers. He's done nothing. So if all he has is numbers and he's done nothing, and all Dak Prescott has is numbers, but his numbers are better, shouldn't he be ahead? Okay, that's cool. I'm still sliding down trying to find Jalen Hurts. Ladies and gentlemen, Jalen Hurts is 53. You want to know what Pete Prisco said about Jalen Hurts? After a breakout season in 2022, when he led the Eagles to the Super Bowl, he regressed some in 2023. The worst part of his game was his interception number, going from 6 in 22 to 15 last season. Even so, he still put up some good numbers, both running it and throwing it. So in other words, the turnovers matter for Jalen Hurts, but they don't matter for Josh Allen. Because you brought up Jalen Hurts being a reason why he dropped 22 spots. Because he was 31st last year, coming off of a Super Bowl appearance. He was 31st. And this year, he dropped 22 spots. Why? Because he turned the ball over. He threw interceptions. That's why. Because he threw interceptions. Somebody make it make sense. Somebody help me understand. If I'm tripping, then okay, cool. If I'm tripping, then cool. But Trevor Lawrence is 62nd, and he threw 14 picks and 21 touchdowns. He threw 7 less picks than he did touchdowns. And he's on the list. He's on the list. He was higher than Justin Fields last year, coming off of a Super Bowl win. A Super Bowl berth. He's higher than Tua Tagovailoa. And Tua had 29 touchdown passes last year and nowhere near the same amount of interceptions. If Tua had those interceptions, people would be talking about he should not be in the league. I'm just telling you what the perceptions that we get from these guys. It makes zero sense to me. And again, Pete Prisco had the courage to put a list out. And when you have the courage to put a list out, I applaud it. But that don't mean I don't got no issue with it. Now, once again, I'll put a list out, and if I do, it'll get criticized. But you know what it won't be? There won't be any double talk. I won't criticize one person for something and ding them for this, but not ding the other for it. Because to me, Joe Burrow and Justin and Jalen Hurts, they're the same type of quarterback right now. Both in systems set up for a quarterback to be successful, and they came in and got the job done. They both have receiving weapons. They both have running games that are admirable. Jalen Hurts has an added dynamic that Joe Burrow doesn't have. Number 1, durability. Number 2, running ability. If you want to say that Joe Burrow's a better passer, okay, cool. You can say that. How much better? Because I could argue that if you flip them, Jalen Hurts is still Jalen Hurts in Cincinnati with all that talent. Joe Burrow, is he still Joe Burrow in Philly? Or do they have to switch things around? Like, he has to go and run Jalen Hurts' offense. Jalen Hurts can go and run Joe Burrow's offense. Joe Burrow, can he go and run Jalen Hurts' offense? How, Sway? Without getting broken. Hey, these are just my thoughts. Just what I was thinking at the time. I appreciate Pete Prisco for putting out that list. And I appreciate everybody for showing their biases. I appreciate them. I want to see it out loud. So I want to see it in my face so I know, okay, that person's not looking at things objectively. That person has a slant for whatever reason. For whatever reason, right? Is it because people are used to the position being played a certain way by certain people, and now that there's new people playing it in ways that have never played before, that changes the math for them? I don't know. All I know for certain is that this ain't it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. Do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Bleacher Brothers channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to Football Game Plan on Facebook. Coach Gene Clemens on Facebook. Coach Gene Clemens on X, at Gene Clemens. Bleacher Brothers on X. Football Game Plan on X. Until next time, peace.